with the big table there, with all the chairs round, the mechanism for winding the clock, and the safe was up there as well, a huge safe, and so the people, the St.Annes Land and Building Company directors would all have the meetings up there. And of course the pier developed and expanded, and we ended up with the Moorish style pavilion with magnificent domes on, and it held 1,000 people in there. And on the other side of the pier was the Floral Hall, mainly sort of glass, masses of daylight coming, wonderful Floral Hall with lots of interior plants in there. And in the Floral Hall you'd have regular orchestral concerts going on, led by people like Arnold Johns, and then when mixed up with the orchestral concerts we had the Tyrolean shows with people dressed up in Tyrolean outfits, and marvellous. And in this Moorish pavilion you had famous artists playing in there, like Russ Conway, mayoral, annual mayoral shows on there, talent competitions on there, famous pianists like Russ Conway, Jimmy Jewell and Ben Wallace. I always remember being on stage there when Doris Parfitt was the mayor, oh, while that concert was on, part of the act was a belly dancer. I was helping backstage at the time, so I got chatting to these people. This belly dancer reckoned she performed in front of King Farouk or somebody or other in Egypt, and she went on doing this belly dancing, which wobbling her belly, which seemed to go on for ages. And I said to her afterwards, how do you manage to keep going? She said, if I stopped in the middle of my performance, I'd never get it going again. Hilarious. So you had all the operatic shows on there, and the manager was Cecil Fortune, wonderful chap, very strict, wanted everything working properly. And there was one operatic show, St.Annes Operatic were doing a show, I think it was called New Moon. And New Moon meant that you had to lower a person down onto the stage as if he'd just come in on a parachute. And so the stage had a shell-like back to it, so there wasn't much height for putting scenery and doing special effects. So Peter Wilson, he and the joiner, Pier joiner, Cliff Beddoes, they climbed up on the roof of the Moorish pavilion and cut a hole in the top of the roof. Just at that moment, Cecil Fortune, the manager of the pier, was walking by, and he said, "Peter, what are you doing up there?" He said, "It's all right, Mr. Fortune, we're just repairing the roof." "Oh, good work, carry on." And then they got this character, this pilot character in New Moon, and they lowered him down onto the stage from a rope to create the effect that he'd sort of come in on a parachute. And then after the show, of course, they patched it all up. But the memories I had was, you know, just nearing the end of the Moorish pavilion was when they had the centenary of the formation of St.Annes, which was sort of like 1974. And there, to commemorate the centenary, they had the royal performance on there. They brought, the late Gabriel Harrison arranged for Princess Anne to come to be in the Moorish pavilion, and they had the Yehudi Menuhin concert there, all in aid of local, I think it's Save the Children Fund, which is Princess Anne's main charity, and the tickets were £25 each. A fortune in '74. Well, Peter Wilson gave me a cine camera. He said, look, we're not allowed to follow Princess Anne with a camera. All you can do is stay put, and as she comes past, you can film her. And so Princess Anne came to the landward end of the pier, came in front of a row of Boy Scouts and inspected them, and came towards the entrance to the pier, and I filmed that and let the camera pan as she disappeared up the pier. And I'd got my, underneath my long raincoat, I'd got my dinner jacket and outfit on. So I thought, I'm not going to miss this concert. You can cut all this out if you want. I'm not going to miss this concert. So I thought, right, put the camera in the big leather bag. And I started to walk down the pier. Well, you can imagine, with it being royalty, you had police on horseback on the beach. You even had security people on the top of the Majestic Hotel looking down to make sure nothing was going to happen. And I started walking down the pier towards the pavilion. And I was stopped by these huge security men who said, and where do you think you're going to? I said, the microphone's broken down backstage and I'm going to fix it. Oh, that's all right, you carry on. So I went on. Peter Wilson was the stage manager, and I got in through the stage door, and Peter Wilson said, sit down there, Arnold, and you can listen to the concert. And there Yehudi Menü was on with his orchestra, playing away on his violin, and sat down there off stage was Hepzibah Menuhin. That's Yehudi's sister. Lovely person. She was a classical pianist, and she was telling me such an interesting story that the whole family of the Menuhins came originally. They were Jewish people, and they came out of Russia at a time when so many Jews got out of Russia, and they arrived in New York in 1926. There was always music in the family, and eventually, of course, they came to England. And she was telling me this marvellous story, and she said, I'll have to break away now. I've got to go on stage and play the piano. So off she goes to play the piano, this magnificent big grand piano. And the wind was so terrible, coming through the floorboards of the pier and through the stage door. It was blowing the music all over the place. One of the members of the orchestra came off stage, saw me in my dinner jacket, and he said, would you come on stage and turn the music over? So I sat upstage of Hepzibah. And there she was, playing away, and down there with Princess Anne looking up at us. And while she was playing, she nodded me to turn the page over, you see. And I said, what are these extra notes up top of here? This is all while it was going on in pencil. She said, that's in case you don't have time to turn the page over quickly enough, you see. So, anyway, after that, it came to the interval. And I thought, I'll go into the auditorium and get myself a programme, souvenir programme. So, I went into the auditorium, and Barry Morehouse, Morris, was the publicity manager. He went on to be the publicity manager for Blackpool, but publicity manager for St.Annes at those times. And he said, Arnold, what were you doing on the stage with Hepzibah? I said, well, listen, keep this quiet, but she'd actually hurt her upstage hand, and I was playing the left hand bit. So, there you are, I got my souvenir programme, and then when the whole concert was over, there was a lavish slap-up feed in the Floral Hall, and so I got invited to that. Had a marvellous evening. And I got home and my wife said, and where have you been? I said, I've been to the concert. She said, you are rotten. I could have come to that. I said, I know, but it just so happened that it was in the saw the concert, you see. What we'd got up to was that there was a centenary presentation of special medals that had been specially made to commemorate the centenary. And all the pensioners of the town went up into that boardroom, and they were all presented with a specially minted medal, a bottle of centenary wine, and the book.
My wife's got one of those.
And the book, The Rage of Sand,
Yes.
that he produced. Then the following year, after that, of course, there was a variety show, the Ken Platt show, on the end of the pier. And after that performance that evening, the Moorish Pavillion, the massive fire, and it was all burnt out. And I think for me, that was almost like very much the end of a special time. And now the pier is still very popular. It's still popular to walk along to the end of the pier, and the amusement arcade is there. But in some way, it's lost some of the magic. And that's something that publicity people of today are already thinking about, how we're going to bring the magic back to the end of the St.Annes Pier. But that is looking to the future.
Yes. It's unfortunate that there is that much effort and money needed in piers. I just don't think the future anyone has that amount of money.
You're quite right, because the pier company could not afford to pay the insurance premiums to have that rebuilt. But some enterprising people may come up with an idea of providing entertainment on the end of that pier, which is quite possible to do. But that's for the future. Yes. Our first lifeboat was the Laura Janet. But the idea of having a St.Annes lifeboat sprung out of need. The local fishermen would say, well, look, we're fishing out there and it's quite dangerous. We need a lifeboat. We also need a lifeboat house. And they appealed to have a plot of land where they could build a lifeboat house first of all. And the St.Annes Land and Building Company said, well, you can't have the lifeboat house on the promenade, which was the obvious place to have a lifeboat house. No, because it would lower the tone of the promenade. We want very fine buildings on the promenade. You'll have to stick it round the corner in what became East Bank Road, or East Bank Avenue, where it is now. It's now a funeral director's, isn't it? And so
the lifeboat is on the prom where it should be.
So the Moore brothers, who were joiners and undertakers and all the rest of them, builders, they built this first lifeboat house. And it was a right rubbish plot of land. So they built the lifeboat house, but in front of the lifeboat house was a big ditch, drainage ditch, which meant they had to build a special bridge over this so that they could pull the lifeboat on a big horse-drawn trailer across this ditch and then down this virtual unmade road down to the slope. The slope there now, the slope goes down to the car park now, but in those days the slope led down to the North Run, the deep channel that ran along there. And the first boat that they got was the Laura Janet, and they quickly got a crew. And then when the Maroon went up, local people would come out with their horses, like Whitesides had a haulage company and taxi business connected with the station, and they'd bring their horses out. My grandfather, he he had a horse-drawn cart, big clumping horse, and there'd be a mad race with all these people with useful horses, and they'd race to the lifeboat house to pull this trailer down onto the beach. And this worked fine. They did some fantastic rescues. And then came, it was about 1886. There was a terrible storm. It was December. And they got the message that the German bark, the Mexico, that was really, it was bound from Hamburg to Liverpool, and the winds were so strong it got off course and ended up on a sandbank in the River Ribble, where it was in danger of breaking up, and the crew had lashed themselves to the lashings, and the St.Annes lifeboat went out to try and rescue them. The Southport boat came over, the Lytham lifeboat went out, the Lytham lifeboat came back, having rescued the crew. The Southport boat overturned, and 2 of the crew managed to crawl ashore. But for the St.Annes lifeboat crew, that flipped up, and all the St.Annes lifeboat people were drowned. And this was an absolute disaster. A great friend of the lifeboat crew was Charles Macara. He lived on North Promenade. He was a cotton magnate, but he was passionate about the lifeboat, and he used to spend hours chatting away to the fishermen. And this really hit home. It was so upsetting. And he started, straight away, he said, look, we must raise money for this. And he even had a lifeboat pull right through the centre of Manchester. And he started Lifeboat Saturday. And springing out from Lifeboat Saturday, this need for raising money for lifeboat spread all the way around the country. So money flooded in.
Wasn't it the first time lifeboats raised money?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes, up to then it was very much a sort of hit and miss affair. And so this is the first time money was raised. And the next boat to arrive was a Nora Boyd. And without hesitation, local fishermen came forward to join the crew. And it carried on quite enthusiastically, rescuing so many lives. And of course, today the lifeboat is as strong as ever. We've got this magnificent lifeboat house now where it should be, right on the promenade. We've had constructed that concrete slope, and we've got a tractor launch, marvellous tractor, cost hundreds of thousands of pounds, and that tractor unit pulls the lifeboat down onto the sand and is a very fast launch. It's so successful that Lytham lifeboat, the major lifeboat at Lytham, they decided they couldn't do as quick a launch as the St.Annes lot, so St.Annes is the major lifeboat house now. But originally that tractor unit, the design was developed over at Bridlington, where they've got an expanse of sand like we've got an expanse. And the engineers who developed that tractor unit brought a tractor unit down to St.Annes Beach. These guys got down on St.Annes Beach and they were horrified. And they turned down to the fishermen and the lifeboat crew and said, there's something strange about this beach at St.Annes. They all said, well, what are you talking about? They said, this beach is the only beach where you look out to sea and the beach is going up. Whereas most beaches, the beach goes down to the sea. And that makes you think something's happening to the beach. And are we going to see the beach, the tide coming in round this ever accreting sandbank that's out there? Who knows what the future? Possibly we're going to end up with a new North Run Channel which comes in from St.Annes, in front of St.Annes.
There was a bit of sand yachting took place here.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The sand yachting started what? Oh, in the 1950s, early 50s. You got the likes of Jimmy Glassbrook and a whole load of them. There's actually a book in St.Annes Library that clearly tells the story of the early lifeboats, early sand yachts. But those early sand yachts were huge affairs, great big huge masts with car wheels on, great heavy lumbering things, but they still got up to tremendous speeds along the beach. And of course, the beach out there, you've got 4,000 acres of beach out there. The actual size of St.Annes, including the beach, is 7,000 acres. 4,000 of acres is the sand that's out there. And it absolutely smooth, and so it's perfect for sand yachting. And it started with just a few people going on the beach with these homemade sand yachts, and eventually they carved out a place near Thursby Home, behind Thursby Home, in the sandhills, to build their own sand yacht clubhouse, and this was wonderful. Year after year it grew in importance, such a tremendous tourist attraction, thousands of people. We ended up having the British Sand Yachting Championship there on the beach at St.Annes. Yeah. It became an international event with people coming from as far afield as the Netherlands with their things. With Ian Dibnan started off there as a young lad with his own sand yacht, and to this day he's still very much involved in the sand yachting. And unfortunately, a few years ago there was an accident where someone got killed as a result of a sand yacht hitting this lady, and for a few years it was stopped. Now it's started all over again, this time very safely regulated. The sand yachts of today are much smaller, lighter craft, more easily managed than these great big lumbering things, and now the sand yachting is building up again, being recognised internationally for its importance, and we're seeing more and more of these sand yachting people coming, and it adds to the wind sports out there. The clubhouse now is a magnificent clubhouse with a veranda in front, with a cafe there. Tremendous facilities we've got here in St.Annes for wind sports. The other wind sports, of course, are the kite boarders with the colourful kites that cost, I don't know, I think the kites alone cost over £1,000. Beautiful thing, where these kite boarders, don't know how they do it, they can fly up in the air and do all sorts of tricks in the air. Yeah. I was talking to some of them on the North Beach car park there, alongside where the Sand Yacht Club is. And I was saying to these kite boarders, I said, oh, where have you come from? They said, oh, we've come from Bridlington way. And I said, why have you come all that way? It's the direction of the wind. When the wind is coming from the west, if we were on Bridlington, it would blow us out to sea. Very dangerous. So when the wind is coming from the west, we'll come over here to St.Annes, knowing that if anything goes wrong, it'll blow us ashore. And of course, once the tide is in, and it's a rough tide, they love it. And if anything happens, then because they're kiteboarding in relatively shallow water, if they fall off the kiteboard or something, then they can stand, they're not going to drown. And so we can see kiteboarding growing here in St.Annes, and I'm sure it won't be long before we see the British Championships here. I do hope so, in St.Annes. So that's another reason to look to the future, to encourage all these wind sports.
Yes, yes. And looking at something that goes back in time, the golf courses, they eventually became the Royal Lytham and the Old Links, but they didn't begin like that.
No, well, there was this chap, where are we now? About 1880, this Scottish fella, I don't know whether I pronounced his name right, Dobman. He came to live in St.Annes, but he came down from Scotland, the home of golf, and he was a golfing enthusiast. And he was talking to all the leading people around here, and he said, you know, you ought to start a golf links. Eventually he started talking to the right people, and golf links are traditionally built on sandy, grassy places.
Yeah.
Just like down here, yeah. And so he said, look, come on, let's start playing golf. So the first thing was to find somewhere where they could play. And this chap who'd got this huge farm from Hedram Gate Farm, where some of his farmland went from Hedram Gate Farm all the way down to what is now St. Annes Road East, backing onto there. He said, yeah, for a bit, I'll rent you some space once we've done the harvest. That was sort of, once April was out of the way. So the golf was started there. It was called the St. Annes Golf Club. And the golfers, as I mentioned earlier, in connection with St. Annes Hotel, they met in the St. Annes Hotel, the Railway Hotel, and when they were ready for a game of golf, they'd got to go across the railway, over a stile, and then onto the golf links, Farmers Field. And so they were playing on Farmers Fields. The Farmers Fields there, they had a lot of hazards, because on these Farmers Fields was a lot of copse. The copse are raised lengths of soil, because there was a lot of drainage ditches on the farmers' fields. And when they were digging out the drainage ditches, the soil that came out of the drainage ditch formed these copse. And so in between the copse, they would have the greens and the driving ranges. The ladies always played separately. Where we are now in Dorset Road, just across the road was the ladies' 9-hole section. And there was a little area just near the St. Annes railway station on the landward side, which formed the first St. Annes cricket ground. But that's another subject altogether. But gradually, when we get up to about 1889, something like that, the builders round here wanted all this land, by which time the farmer had rented all his land going down to St. Annes Road East, so that they could play 12 months of the year now. But development takes place as developers dictated. The developers wanted to develop all that land for building purposes, and so the golf club were persuaded to move to their present site. There was so that's where they did. And when they moved there, they got some royal patronage. One of the royalties came and had a game of golf there, and so it became the Royal Lytham and St.Annes golf course. But there was the developers still hadn't developed all of the original golf course. There was a bit still left round here, round what was to become Mayfield Road, and they said, oh well, the ordinary people can play on that bit of a course, what's left. We'll call it the artisan course. And the clubhouse was where the British Legion Club house is now, the Mayfield British Legion Clubhouse. That was the Artisans Golf Club. So eventually the old Links place opened in about 1906, something like that. And so you had the old Links running up towards Squire's Gate. That was a small course over where Granny Fishy's Cross Slack was. So they had a relatively small course there. And then there was another course, the Blackpool Golf Course, which was on the site of what became the Squires Gate Holiday Camp.
Oh, yeah.
When the Squires Gate Holiday Camp was formed, the Blackpool Golf Club had to vacate those links there, so they moved the Blackpool Golf Club over to the other side of the railway line, the landward side, to add on to the Old Links Golf Club, and so the Old Links Golf Club then became a proper full-blown golf course. And so it carried on. Now, down, while all this was going on, we had the Fairhaven Lake golf course started. Well, this is wonderful. That was down in a hollow with a great big shingle bank shielding them. And the clubhouse was where the present Fairhaven Lake Cafe is. And they played from there in amongst the sandhills and down on the landward side of Clifton Drive, not Clifton Drive, the promenade, is a sunken area. Where you see King Edward School, APS now, if you look amongst the sandhills, you'll see a low stretch. That was one of the greens.
I know.
And if you study that low stretch, you can see where the green ended up. Near where that clump of trees is, which is now an electricity substation. That was one of the greens. And then they also played on the land where King Edward's and Queen Mary's School eventually were. And then enormous storm, one of these inroads of the sea, crashed in this huge shingle bank and flooded out the golf course at Fairhaven Lake and ruined that for them. So they then moved the Fairhaven golf course over to the land that became the school, King Edward School, and they played golf on there, and then the other side of Clifton Drive, where the Clifton Hospital is. So they had a split site, and Lord Ashton, he gave the money to develop the Fairhaven Lake as a Ashton Marine Park, and rebuilt that shingle banking. But that's another story. So the Fairhaven Lake new clubhouse was then in St Paul's Avenue. And then eventually, when the school was developed, they moved again to the back of Lytham, where the present Fairhaven Lake golf course is. So there are the three main golf courses, and bear in mind that we've been very deliberate talking about St.Annes because the borderline for the borough of St.Annes, the Urban District Council, St.Annes on the sea, their borderline was the middle of St Paul's Avenue.
Yes, yes.
And that's the story of the golf courses.
Yeah, well, they would have been in St.Annes and moved out to St.Annes when
Yes.
they moved to their new
Yes,
premises.
that's it.
Yeah. Just the Thursby home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, well, you got the Thursby home, the Manchester home, and the Ormerod home.
yeah,
All convalescent homes.
yes,
And they were all associated with benefactors from various towns. Like there'd be the Ormerod home, there'd be a Mr Ormerod who would set up that home with the Sisters of Religious Charity.
yeah,
And disadvantaged children from inland mill towns would come very much at the start of the 1900s, where you had epidemics of TB, TB of the lungs. It spread like wildfire through the mill towns. And they thought the cure was to bring these children suffering from TB of the lungs to St.Annes. And they all had verandas, and they put these children suffering with TB out on open verandas in their beds, covered over with heavy blankets to keep them warm, and there they were breathing in the fresh air, and fresh air and the seaside air. After a while, obviously they started to feel a lot better. Gracie Fields was one of the people who went to the Rochdale home, and when she was getting better, she was appearing in the talent competitions around here. But those early convalescent homes were forever in the memory of those people from the mill towns, and as they grow up, so they had fond memories of getting better and playing about on the sandhills. And one person wrote to me, who was one of these children who was at one of those convalescent homes, and this person said that they always remember going over to the holiday camp on the other side, Squires Gate holiday camp, and there must have been a swimming pool, because they said they could remember swimming there. But I haven't got details of those swimming pools. But they thought it was wonderful. You know, they got TB of the lungs, and you're going to go to the seaside. Well, what a recovery! All done with the charity of these well-to-do cotton magnates, who wanted to do some good for local children. That's the story of all of those homes.
yeah. Good. That's very very good impression. Thank you very much, Arnold.
It's a pleasure, and we'll look forward to the next time I'm speaking with you.
Thank you.